So when I did Side Week, there was a notable omission. I was kind of contemplating which of the Unicron trilogy sideways to go with, and I chose for something a little bit unexpected for me. So this time, let's actually finish it up properly, and we will talk about my favorite of the sides, Cybertron Sideways. This was by far one of the most popular toys in that entire series, probably the most popular deluxe. For very good reason, there's a lot to like about this figure. As you can see, molded in jet black plastic all the way through, with only a few bits done up in translucent orange just to give it a little bit more of a alien feel. He was the rogue agent from Planet X, so his design and a lot of elements to him later on will be very unlike anything else in the Unicron trilogy, as even for Cybertron. As we look, he is an extremely low profile vehicle mode. This is one of the best looking jets there is. I mean, just for like sheer, like, there's almost no undercarriage because all of his bulk goes outward, to create that sleek alien look. I really, really like the vehicle mode. There's a lot of sharp elements to it, too. I like these blades up top and the ones sweeping back as tail fins, but not quite. And you've got other points all the way through. It's got a lot of sharpness to it in all directions. And, of course, the inverted wings with the tips pointed forward. Just a really cool look. And I like the color scheme on this, too. You can notice a lot of silver across a lot of the toy, on the blades, the wings, and the cockpit, and then, of course, toward the center and top. In the Japanese release, that would be chrome, and I actually prefer the look of the silver, if only because it's a lot more durable. The only part that's chromed on the American release is there in the center, which you can see on mine. There's a little bit worn, a little bit chippage. I think that was there from... I think that was there when I opened the toy, though. I'm not sure. It's been a long time. But I want to say that's always been there, because I don't usually damage chrome like that. In any case, we continue looking at the figure. The dark gold, which is a nice accent. You don't get like a dark gold color like that very often. Usually it's much brighter than that. But it looks good on him. There's a little bit more of an ancient look to it. And I like the orange and the bright green highlights. There's something about little spots of bright orange and bright green that just kind of screams techno and alien, and I really like how it's used here. Just dotted inside all these little molded areas, and there's so much molding on the figure. You can see all those line patterns going all the way through. I really like the parts up here. You can see a lot of inner workings and wires going through, and it really gives him this really technological look. Like, it looks like something out of like Independence Day, one of our 90s and early 2000s sci-fi alien flicks. I really, really like the look of this toy. There are no landing gear to fold down. There are little tiny wheels just so it doesn't scrape as you're rolling it along. But for the most part, yeah, that's what's going on. Now, he does have a cyber key that we can use here, this one being marked DJ51, and back in the day, the Cybertron website would unlock some biography info for you. These days, it's pretty much just look it up on TF Wiki, if you're really that curious. But he uses the Planet X design of with the Decepticon logo molded in, and it's very spiky, and the translucent orange. I like this. This is one of my favorite keys, though I tend to like every cyber key, now that I think of it. Now, we can use his main gimmick in this mode by lifting this piece out, and thus deploying it here. And I'll quickly demonstrate it, just so you can see what it looks like when you've got everything deployed. Because he needs more wings, right? Yeah, because... I don't know, it's a little bit ineffective in this mode, I feel. Like, it's nice that the option is there, but it doesn't feel like it's doing a whole lot. So I'll show it to you more properly when we get to robot mode. And this is actually a good time to do that. Now that that's up, we'll fold that away. I will point out, the transformation can be done without removing these pieces. You can actually do the transformation completely without removing the wings. I'm going to attempt that, but if they get in the way, I am going to remove them just for the sake of easing this, because he does have quite a unique transformation. There's, you know how I said there's a lot of elements to him that give him a more alien feel? The transformation is definitely one of those, because it's quite complicated for a Unicron Trilogy toy. We see here, hang on, legs will have to rotate around like so. And let's see, this is the part I hate because I can never remember exactly how the wings go. There we go. So those fold up and collapse against what will be the robot mode leg. The pelvis piece is split, so we bring it together like so in order to form the lower section of the toy. Now, this has to come all the way forward so we can get the arms unfolded. One of them does have that big centerpiece attached, so there's a little bit of finagling to get that out into the right position. Now that does affect getting him back into vehicle mode a little bit, but generally it's easy to figure out. Now with that done, that piece folds back, and the head is on a dual hinge in order to come up. See, we had little bits of it exposed the whole time, you didn't even know it. Or maybe you own this toy and you fully knew it, in which case that sounded really silly. Fold that down, creating the arm piece. Get the arms folded in the right positions, and there we go. I believe we will call that a robot mode. Introducing Cybertron Sideways. Looking quite excellent. This is like, this is such a cool design. And, you know, for a toy that like really doesn't hide much in vehicle mode, there's a lot of new stuff exposed here. Like, again, the engineering does a great job all around on this toy. Again, as always, we look at the head, and what a unique head it is. If you've never seen the toy before, if you've never been exposed to it, don't try looking for eyes. He doesn't have them. That isn't one big gaping mouth. His face is just one big orange lens. This is Prime Soundwave before Prime Soundwave, except much more vocal. This is what kind of design that animators love, because you don't have to mold mouth flaps or anything. It's lovely. It's a really unique and creepy design because there's no facial expression to get any kind of read on, so you never know what Sideways is up to. Now, if we continue to look over him, we see, of course, a ton more orange on this toy. Where it was just a minor detail in vehicle mode, here it is a major player, taking up a lot of the internal parts connecting the toy together, as well as lower arms, hips, midsection, and we can see more detailing now that all the vehicle mode bits are out of the way. Really changes the profile and look of the toy, gives a much brighter pop. I really like it. It's very Halloween, and the creepy horn design really plays into that a little bit. Of course, a lot of the details from robot mode carry over, but there's a bunch new to see. Extra gold paint apps are done up on the shoulders as well as the back of the fists, and down towards the legs. We have these tiny wings that, they're very hard to make out in vehicle mode. I apologize if I didn't point them out, but now we can see a lot of the silver detailing a lot easier. And for some reason, the thighs got panel lining in this orange. It's the only area where this panel lining exists. It looks quite good. I kind of wish it was on the bicep or somewhere in the chest so it's a little bit easier to see, because it is a neat look. And everything else just kind of looks like it did in the vehicle mode. You can see, of course, he keeps the front end of the chest. Like, that's kind of weird. In such a different looking Transformer with such a unique design and engineering, he still keeps a little bit of that trademark Transformer-ness to him, which is kind of a nice little nod. We look on the back, the wings or the tail fins or blades or whatever you want to pretend that they are have now formed something of a cape, which is kind of one reason why you'd see this toy redone as Rat-Bat, which is one of the smarter repaints I'd ever seen. Now, before we get into articulation, let's go ahead and show you the Gimmick Info. As you can see, the centerpiece of the vehicle mode has popped off. Well, not popped off, but it is now mounted on his arm where it acts as a shield. And now we see something suspicious as he has an Autobot symbol, Tampacraft, in there. Does he look like an Autobot to you? In what dimension could this guy pass as an Autobot? Clearly something is up here, as there always is with a Sideways. Let's use the Cyber Key again, and you can see he is a faction switcher, switching to his proper Decepticon allegiance. Even that's not a proper one, though, because there's no Unicron. But he was a villain for the majority of the series. Like, he only played Autobot for maybe half an episode. So that's as much life as the Gimmick had in the series. God, I'm sorry. Like, guys, you got fooled again by another Transformer named Sideways. Like, how many times are you going to do that? Here, though, we can also see the blades work a lot better as an arm-mounted weapon. I kind of imagine it more as some kind of alien or energy bow or crossbow. Especially with this green piece here, it really does give that impression that it's going to launch something and it's going to hurt when it hits. So I always felt it was more of a energy projectile weapon, which makes sense because he doesn't really need these big blades acting as a melee weapon. He's got that covered. Well, managed to transform him without taking the wings off, but now we can take the wings off, which, the sides of the legs are uglier without them. And now we can go ahead and mount these in his hands in order to actually give him a more weaponized look. Twin swords. Now, swords aren't quite his thing. I guess it works with the sharp detail. It looks like he's holding like a pair of Buster swords. Like, they're very big and thick for the kind of guy who's wielding them. And this works well enough, but really, the way that's more correctly positioned, the way he uses it more often, is both together as one gigantic blade weapon, which again has something of a bow appearance, but, I don't know, kind of harkens closer to a batleth this way. I really like bringing all that silver detail together to form the edge of one massive blade. It's a really nice look to him that really gets across just how dangerous this guy is. Works quite well for me. And then we save articulation for last because, ooh, man, they did good. The neck swivels all the way around, so you have that. Universal shoulders with 2 points of articulation to create it, so not a ball joint. Bicep swivel works. The elbows bend to a 90 degree, and then, of course, the wrist rotates as well. You'll notice that the shoulder keeps, like, falling on mine. Over the years, that hinge has kind of weakened, so it doesn't quite hold the weight. Your mileage may vary. Ball-jointed hips, no waist, because we had to bring the hips together in order to transform him. But the ball joint in the hip works extremely well, a lot of range. There is a thigh rotation just below. Very, very deep knee because of the transformation, and a little bit of play in the foot to help you get your balance on your poses. For Cybertron, this was an extremely good level of articulation. He was a very poseable, very expressive toy for the times, and looks quite dynamic, doing a lot of poses with both of his blade weapons drawn out, though I only have one out here. Come on. Cooperate with me. Look cool. Come on. There you go. That works. Looking quite good. I'm such a fan of this toy. Now, this was done in kind of a weird period for Transformers because if you go to like Galaxy Force, the Japanese version, Noise Maze, you'll actually find the paint apps are quite different. Typically, the American toys just left paint apps off, but there's actually a lot of artistic changes done to the toy. So it's one of those where you're going to find preference with one or the other. It's not a matter of one being superior, just the one you like the look of better. Personally, as said, I kind of prefer the American version, if only so I don't have to watch out for the chrome all the time. So yeah, that is Cybertron Sideways, one of my favorite Cybertron toys, and one I never thought they'd ever be able to repaint, and now there's like 2 repaints of him at least, and a remold or 2 that's actually really, really clever. So sometimes the designers actually have really good ideas for these toys, but he stands perfectly well on his own.